Welcome back, folks. It's Friday, January 26, 2024. I'm born on this date in 1941. Recently deceased Bill Burgess of Birmingham, who coached the Jacksonville State football team to a Division II national championship. And in 1944, activist, author, and professor Angela Davis of Birmingham. Also, on this date in 1983, Bear Bryant passed away at age 69. Today we have some details on last night's execution. Then we'll talk more about modified pig kidneys and an AI version of Donald Trump showing up in a congressional campaign. My name's Ike Morgan, and we are down in Alabama. Alabama became the first state in the U.S. to use the nitrogen hypoxia method of execution Thursday night when it put to death convicted murderer Kenneth Eugene Smith, reports AL.com's Ivana Rinkiw. Smith was convicted in the murder for hire of 45-year-old Elizabeth Dorleen Sennett in Colbert County in 1988. Sennett had been beaten and stabbed. Court records show Smith was paid about $1,000. The state previously attempted to execute Smith by lethal injection, but had trouble accessing a vein and didn't complete the execution within the allotted time by the state's execution protocol. Smith's legal actions to avoid a second lethal injection effort included an argument that he could choose nitrogen hypoxia instead. At that time, the state didn't have a protocol in place for using nitrogen, which has also been approved for use by Oklahoma and Mississippi, but had not yet been used anywhere until last night. The Alabama Department of Corrections delivered a protocol, which was approved by the state's Supreme Court. Smith's legal efforts then to challenge the constitutionality of the new method failed. The method includes using a mask on the condemned to replace breathable air with nitrogen. So a major part of the story is whether nitrogen will be considered an acceptable method of execution going forward. The state continues to stand behind the method. Attorney General Steve Marshall last night said the execution took place without problems, and he called the method humane and effective. Now, 5 members of the media were allowed to witness the execution, including our Ivana Rinkiw. Now, here's Ivana's description of what took place.
Following the flow of nitrogen gas, Kenneth Smith laid on the gurney and shook for about 2 minutes, shaking and writhing on that gurney. The gurney did move several times there. Following that shaking on the gurney, there were several minutes, about between 5 and 7 minutes, according to media witnesses, of heavy breathing on the gurney. At about 8:08, movement appeared to stop, and there was no perceptible breathing from Kenneth Smith. The curtains to the execution viewing room closed at 8:15 p.m. Central Time, and Governor Ivey pronounced death at 8:25 Central Time. One thing that Kenneth Smith's attorneys were very afraid of is that he might vomit into the mask. He did not show any signs of vomiting there into the mask. Also, the Alabama Attorney General's office had said in prior court filings that they expected him to lose consciousness pretty quickly after that gas began to flow, but media witnesses saw that Kenneth Smith appeared to be conscious for several minutes after that gas began to flow, again before he proceeded to shake and writhe on that gurney for about 2 minutes. Again, that 2 minutes of shaking and writhing on the gurney was followed by about 5 to 7 minutes of heavy breathing.
You may remember back in August we reported on success UAB researchers had in transplanting a genetically modified pig kidney into a brain-dead patient. That was UAB's second such effort. Now there have been 3 such implants, and researchers there are wanting clinical trials, reports AL.com's Amy Yerkinen. The technology has yet to be approved for human trials, but Dr. Jamie Locke said this could be the answer for organ shortages. Quote, "For our patients, if they don't have a living donor, they are more likely to die than to receive a transplant. We are really anxious to have the opportunity to offer this to our patients." Now, does the proliferation of artificial intelligence have you questioning everything you see and hear digitally? Well, it's a big election year, so you might want to start taking a second look at everything. Ken McFeeters is running against incumbent Gary Palmer in the GOP primary for Congress. Palmer represents Alabama's District 6. AL.com's Howard Koplowitz reports that McFeeters has a commercial in which he's speaking with an AI-generated Donald Trump over the phone. In the ad, the fake Trump says ugly things about Palmer, calling him a weasel, a backstabbing worm, and a deep state puppet. Now, that kind of insult slinging for a presidential candidate would have probably been way over the top a few years ago, but it's on the realistic side of satire these days. Now, I'm going to quote a couple lines from this ad, but listen to me as if you're hearing a Trump voice. I'm glad you informed me about Deep State Palmer. What he is doing is low down and dirty, snitch like. We call Palmer Old Creepy Eyes up here. Now, to be clear, that's fake Trump, not real Trump. Responded the Palmer campaign to McPheeter in his efforts, quote, even the use of artificial intelligence doesn't make him relevant, end quote. Thank y'all so much for listening. Have a great weekend. We're going to be back here on Monday. Until then, as always, come by and see what we're doing anytime you want to. We're open 24 hours a day and 7 days a week on the World Wide Web at al.com.